Tasks B, C, and D all depend on A, so we can add those arrows. By this time, we've pretty much beaten PERT charts to death. So now on to the Gantt chart. Compared to the PERT chart, the Gantt chart is fairly easy. The idea here is just to convert the information from the PERT chart to the Gantt chart. Basically, we just pick off the task start and end times from the last version of the PERT chart and display them in a column-type graphical format. Ideally, the days indicator would be on the dividing lines, but Excel doesn't really work well that way, so please bear with me as we go through this example converting the PERT information to the Gantt chart. Task A starts at time 0, takes 2 days to complete, and finishes at the end of day 2. That information is shown on the first line of the Gantt chart. And because it's on the critical path, I've shown it in red. Tasks B, C, and D all start when Task A has completed immediately after the end of day 2. Task B starts immediately after day 2, takes 4 days, and finishes on day 6. I've shown it in green since it's not on the critical path. Task C also starts immediately after day 2, takes 6 days to complete, and finishes on day 8. Since it's on the critical path, I've shown it in red. Task D starts immediately after day 2, takes 5 days to complete, and finishes on day 7. It's not on the critical path, so I've shown this one in green also. Task E starts after both tasks C and D are complete. So we show Task E commencing just after 8 days cumulative elapsed time when Task C has completed and lasting through day 11 since it takes 3 days. Since Task E is on the critical path, I show it in red. Task F starts after Task B is finished, 6 days of cumulative elapsed time, takes 4 days to execute, so it finishes at day 10. It's not on the critical path, so I show Task F in green. Task G can start after cumulative elapsed time day 11 when Task E has completed. It takes 2 days execution time, so has completed at cumulative elapsed time day 13. And that's it. What we've looked at so far is the use of the Gantt chart to reflect the plan as developed with the PERT chart. The Gantt chart is also useful for tracking the progress of the individual tasks and the overall project. Generally, different colors are used to show the progress, a basic color for the plan and a different color for the amount of work that has been completed. In this Gantt chart, we've shown what it might look like after 4 days if all the tasks have gone as planned, and we're using blue to show the progress. In the real world, again, hardly anything goes precisely as planned. So rather than having just a plan and a progress coding, Gantt charts typically include 3 items for each task. A plan, like we've already shown, a forecast, which we use when the initial plan is no longer valid, but we want to keep the information on both the initial plan and this modified forecast and the actual work on the task. This diagram is identical to the previous ones, except that I've identified each task's timeline as plan, and I'm just using yellow. For each of the tasks, we may decide that we need to change the starting date, the execution time, the end time, or even all 3. In this Gantt chart, the plan schedule is shown in yellow and the forecast schedule in orange. The project manager may be aware of the required schedule changes before the project tasks have started, or the project may be well underway by the time the delays are recognized. The changes may be small or may be large enough that we may have to go back to the PERT chart and perform another critical path analysis. Small scheduling changes on tasks that are not in the critical path will not affect the overall project completion time. Increases in execution times of tasks that are on the critical path will likely require more PERT analysis. In this Gantt chart, I've added the actual task working days. Note that some actual entries actually match the plan and forecast dates. Some start later and last longer, and a few even start early and come in on schedule. Ah, the joys of project management. That's it for the PERT and Gantt chart explanations. I hope you've gotten some good information without it being too tedious. If you have any questions or wish to make any comments, you can contact me at djwilhelm@waketech.edu. Cheers.